company calls me, and we have this fan that we'd like you to come look at. So I look at it. I said, well, that one over there we have to balance all the time. And I said, why does it go out of balance? Well, we don't know, but it does go out of balance. I said, what's the history on it? Oh, it runs great for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then the next morning it's badly out of balance. Well, what do you do about it? We call somebody in to balance it. Why don't you find out why it does this? Well, we don't know how to do that. We have a guy here locally that comes in and balances it. And I said, free for nothing. I'd like to know why it does that. If I'm going to learn anything, here's a fan runs good for 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then overnight it's bad? Yeah, it's bad. So I went out and I got a little recorder that would record the overall vibration level once every second and stick it on a piece of paper. And I took it up there and stuck it on that fan because they weren't willing to pay me, cheap people, weren't willing to pay me a consulting fee to sit there for 3 or 4 weeks until it went bad. Well, in the time I came back, in a month, it had gone bad twice, both times 2:30 in the morning. So I said, it looks to me like we ought to look at this fan at 2:30 in the morning. What happens at 2:30 in the morning? Nothing. Well, something happens at 2:30 in the morning. And I said, if you're not interested, I am. I'll sit and look at this fan. So I went up to Wisconsin, and I got a motel, and every night I went in at midnight and back at 4 a.m. And one night I'm sitting there, and up comes this kid with a hand truck, a 50-gallon barrel on it with mop water. And he pries up this thing on the floor and dumps this barrel full of cold mop water in this inlet to the fan. Fan's running 648 degrees. And I said, what are you doing? Well, he said, I have a girlfriend who's a nurse over at the hospital, and sometimes she can get off early in the morning. And if I have to take this down to the janitor's closet in the basement, I miss her. But when she calls me and says she can get off, I just dump it in this hole. And then I can get over to the hospital and meet my girlfriend, and I get back here to check out, and nobody knows it. And I got cold water quenching a fan running at 650 degrees. I'm at a customer's plant just a year ago. And he says, would you look at this fan? Do you think the vibration's bad? And I look at it, not too bad. Well, he said, we worry about it a little bit. It blew up. I said, what do you do when it blew? Oh, we bought another wheel and put it in. Was the wheel different? No, it's an exact replacement of the one that blew up. Now, there is a law. It's called the Crawfordian law that says if one of them blew up, 2 of them will too. You didn't change anything. You didn't run an FEA or a modal analysis. You don't know what the blade... No, we just... If it blows up, we put a new wheel in. Wouldn't you want to know why it blew up? Why would you just put shafts or wheels in the same machine that is constantly failing?
Being placed in the role of an expert, Art is often asked to do what others cannot.
And they said, we can't balance this eddy current generator. We'd like you to come up and look at it. I said, do you have anybody there that knows anything about balance? Oh, yes, we have a man that's pretty good. I said, if he can't balance it, I can't. Well, you're supposed to be an expert. We'd like you to look at it. So I go up there, and it's sitting there. He says, you want us to turn it on? I said, no, I don't want you to turn it on. I want to hit it. If your guy can't balance it, I can't balance it. I want to hit it to see what the resonance is. So I got out my instrument and hammer, and I set up my wave pack, and I wham. But anyway, I hit it, and I only hit it once, and bang, up came 30 hertz. And I said, what does this run at? And he said, 1,800 RPM. And there's a kid standing there, hair's down below his shoulders. And he said, that's interesting. I ran an FEA on the drawings before we built it, and I had a mode at 29.8 hertz. And I turned around and I said, what'd you say? Well, he said they submitted the drawings here, and I just thought I'd run an FEA on it, and I had a mode at 29.8 hertz. I said, why did you let them build it? Oh, they don't listen to me.
When should you hire a consultant?
Always hire me. I'll give you my card. I think you should hire a consultant when you're convinced that the expertise in your company is not sufficient to solve the problem.
In a career involving problems, the unusual is inevitable. Art relates one unusual case.
I went up to look at this car, and they showed me this fuzz about that thick. An attorney had purchased this car. And he wrote a letter, "Dear Ford Motor Company, my wife and I really love the Lincolns. We've had about 10 of them. We have a tiny problem with this one. Your dealer hasn't been able to help us out. Would you help us out? My wife gets so sick at a stoplight that several times she's even vomited." Then I look at the maintenance record. First thing he did is change the drive shaft. Now there's a good one for fun. What they must do is wind up a big spring when they're driving. Well, anyway, I didn't know the drive shaft went around. I said, "Why'd you do that?" He said, "We got to do something to make the customer happy." I said, "Oh, you don't think there's anything wrong with this car. That's why I'm here. You want an unprejudiced, intelligent decision by an expert that there's nothing wrong with the car." He said, "Absolutely right. We think it's going to court." Well, I said, if I'm going to do that, I got to measure vibration on it. And I put vibration transducers on this engine. And if the guy's wife gets sick at a stoplight, I assume it's running at curb idle. How long do I have? He said, "Only at 15 So I put vibration transducers on this thing, and I let it run at curb idle. I had 94 mils. Now, I know that engines vibrate a little around at curb idle, but I've never seen 94 mils. And I said, "I think something's wrong with this engine." They said, "Tell us what it is." Well, I said, "It's half order, so it's, and this is a 4-stroke engine. It's fuel or ignition." "Fine. What do you want?" I said, "I want a flow-tested carburetor." We put 7 on. Well, I don't suppose an 1/8 is going to make much difference. Give me a set of spark plugs. We had 10 sets in it. Well, I'd like some silicon rubber spark plug wires. Well, we've probably had 7 or 8 sets of those. Distributor, coil. It didn't matter what I named, they'd done. I said, "Excuse me a minute." And I walked out to my truck. I don't know about you people, my service truck has more equipment in it than any company I've ever worked for. I think, how do these people solve their vibration problems? They don't have anything. They got one transducer and a little thing they hold in their hand. Well, anyway, I went out to my truck and came trundling back in with my toolkit. He said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to take the engine apart." No, I said, "You can't violate the engine." Well, I said, "Then I'll have to write a report that the vibration seems rather high in me." Took them 2 days to get me permission that I could take the engine apart. Honest. There were 2 pounds of baked beans in the intake manifold, all jammed up against one of the intake valves.
And another unusual incident.
I got a call, phone rang. And there was a girl on the phone. She said, "I am the personal secretary." I guess I shouldn't tell you the company name. "For the president of this company. His limousine will be there tomorrow morning and he wants the wheels balanced." Oh, balanced. I'm an expert. And I assumed somebody's playing a joke on me. I just forgot it. Next morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, a black limousine pulled up, uniformed chauffeur pulled out, came in, asked for me, said, "The boss wants the wheels balanced." "Who hired you to do this?" "Somebody playing a joke on me." He says, "No joke." You got to be kidding. "I know where this company is. It's 350 miles from here." He says, "I know that. Left at midnight last night because the blankety-blank boss wants the wheels back." I said, "Why didn't you do it in your town?" "I don't want to tell you where it was." And he said, "We've had them balanced 7 times and they still vibrate." I said, "Wait a minute. This is a big company. What tires you have on there?" "Firestone 500s. "Oh, listen." I said, "Tell your boss to call Harvey Firestone." The guy says, "He's dead." I said, "I don't care." "He'll get out of the grave and he'll give you Firestone 500s until your boss likes them, just to keep your business." He said, "Hey, I don't know anything about that. The boss wants to see if you can balance it." I said, "I can't. 7 people can't balance them. I can't balance them. What we'll do is trade them in for new ones." He said, "No, you can't do that. Got to balance. I have a juvenile delinquent that works for me." And I said, "Steve, take the tires off that car." He said, the chauffeur said, "I told you, we're not going to change the tires." I know I'm going to change them. I just want to look inside them. Got to be something wrong. A big tennis ball with somebody had opened the tennis ball and plugged it full of dirt inside the front tire. Honest, I'm not making it. Hey, if I made these things up, they wouldn't be as funny as they are. Absolutely no possibility that the kid that saw that black limousine and said, I'll go play a joke on that. But he did, and he got the goat of the president of one of the largest companies in the United States.
Notice that in both of these incidents, Art avoids the same solutions which have already been tried, but looks at it from a different perspective. The unusual seems to be common to Art.
It's fun. Really, if I ruled out the unusual, I believe that'd come pretty close to 20% of the jobs I work on. And it's because people don't look for the unusual that a lot of times they call a consultant. They don't think about baked beans in the intake manifold and various things like that happening, large chunks of aluminum. That's just unusual, Jim. There's no way you could call that usual.
Does Art truly realize the cost and value of his experiences?
I just might as well entertain you the rest of the afternoon. I'm at Sun Electric. You know, you can't go to many schools and get all these stories. Over 40 years, it's going to take me 20 years to tell them to you.
Art Crawford has illustrated several techniques that will enhance your troubleshooting skills. The first is be creative. Look at the problem from new perspectives. Don't build a box around the problem and assume the solution must be in the box. Expand your thinking. Know the machine. Ask questions, static questions, personnel questions, and make a desperate effort to find out what was last done to the machine. Ask dynamic questions and realize the dumb question might be the one to provide the solution. If someone else can't fix it, balance it, align it, then use that as a flag to look at the situation from a different perspective.
Wouldn't you want to know why?